Hey everybody, this is RJ Brewer from Palm Springs, California, and you're watching GoTarryn TV.
Hey everybody, welcome to GoTarryn TV today. I'm Tarryn the Traveling Trainer out of Atlanta, Georgia. It's episode 459, and on the other line, all the way from Palm Springs, California, for the very first time on today's video show, we have Mr. RJ Brewer. RJ, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Good, thank you. Well, the pleasure's all ours. Thanks for taking the opportunity, and time out of your schedule to be on here. We have a mutual friend, of course, that we had a couple weeks ago on GoTarryn TV for all the listeners and watchers, Mr. Gary Cappetta, who had a lot of great things to say about you, of course. And so I couldn't wait to get you on here because I've got a ton of questions for you. And again, this being your first time, we're going to go over a lot of stuff. But first of all, again, thanks for being here. For the folks listening for the very first time, again, RJ Brewer, personal trainer, fitness professional, and of course, professional wrestler. Let's talk about first, before we jump into anything, where you're from and where you grew up, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, basically I grew up in Massachusetts. I was born in Boston and lived there for a few years, and then I moved out to the Framingham area, which is about 30 miles west of Boston. Very, very big town. In fact, I think probably I had read somewhere that it's one of the biggest towns in the country. So technically it should be a city, but it's a town. Very diverse town. Kind of a melting pot. You go over the train tracks, and there's a lot of Brazilian folks, and then you go over to the other side, and there's a lot of Irish and Italian, and then you got, it's a very mixed town. So my high school was actually bigger than my college. I think my graduating class had about 450 people in it, so it was very big. And I had gone to college with some kids. One of my college roommates was from Vermont, and I think he said his graduating class had like 20. So that made me realize how big my high school really was.
Wow.
And I had a very basic childhood, I would say. My parents are immigrants from Greece, so I'm first generation American. I got a brother and a sister, and basically we were very, I wouldn't even say middle class. It's probably a stretch. My parents struggled because they came here, when they were younger, didn't know the language, didn't have a job or an education, and just really pinched pennies, worked hard, and just came here to live the American dream and provide for their family, and it made me appreciate hard work, made me appreciate a dollar, and definitely made me appreciate my parents. They were so selfless, especially my mother, in the way they sacrificed for their children. And pretty much grew up in Massachusetts my whole life. Went to elementary school, middle school, high school, and college there. And when I was 20 years old, I started embarking on my professional wrestling journey, which was kind of a childhood dream of mine.
That is so cool. Now, let me ask this, RJ. Was that at the same time that you were in college as well?
Yeah, I was 20 years old. I was a junior in college, and wrestling was something that I always kind of toyed with the idea of.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it was. I wouldn't say I wanted to do it since I was a little kid, but it was something that I was a fanatic. I mean, when I first started watching wrestling, I think I was probably like 12 years old, and I was hooked. I never missed a show. I never missed a WWF at the time, Superstars or Challenge, Saturday Night's Main Event. I got all the pay-per-views.
Definitely.
And I was very into it. But I was very small. I mean, I graduated high school. I barely weighed 140 pounds. So I was very undersized. So doing it was not even something that I would even consider, because especially back then, it was so different from now, where smaller guys get an opportunity. Back then, if you weren't 230 pounds plus, you weren't getting a job. So it wasn't something I considered. But I bulked up after my senior year in high school. I decided I was going to play college football. I put like 25 pounds on in the summer, hit my growth spurt, hit the weights, and then over the next couple of years in college, I had gradually put on some weight where I said, well, now it's kind of a reality. So I started contacting some wrestling schools, and Killer Kowalski's wrestling school was about an hour and 20 minutes from my college, and it made sense because it had the reputation that Killer had. Mm-hmm. And I just pulled the trigger and went for it.
That's awesome. And so you were 20 years old, and what college were you going to at that time?
I went to Assumption College, which is a small Catholic college in Massachusetts, about an hour west of Boston. Very good reputation for college. Mm-hmm. Very not I wouldn't say hard to get into, but not an easy school. Not some community college accepts everybody. This is something you had to have certain grades, and my grades were good in high school. And I decided I was going to play football in college and give it a go. And I did. So it was a good school, definitely a good 4 years. I lived on campus. It was only 40 minutes from home, so going home once in a while wasn't out of reach, but I also got to enjoy the college lifestyle as well.
That's really cool. What was your degree in?
I graduated with a major in communications, and I had a minor in marketing. So
very cool.
Kind of helped. It kind of helped a little bit with wrestling to have a communications major, and then also marketing.
Yeah.
Try to market myself, and I'm actually using it more now than I did for the first 15 years after college, because wrestling was kind of the only thing I had in mind at the time.
That is really, really cool. That's awesome. And let me ask you this, going back to your family real quick. Do you have family still over in Greece?
I have an aunt and a couple cousins, and and I think my mom, I have a cousin or two, my dad too, but my grandparents are all gone, and a lot of my other family are here in the States now. So there's not a lot of family there, and I haven't gone since I was a junior in high school. So it's been a while, but I might be planning a trip there, over the next year or two, because, that's where my roots are, and I like to travel, so.
Yeah, that's really cool. Let me ask you this, because RJ, we've had on the show the last couple months a couple times Antonio the Promise Thomas. I'm sure you must know that name, because the reason why I asked that, I believe, he's pretty close out to where you grew up pretty much, isn't that correct?
Yeah, yes, I've wrestled him, countless times. I mean, I've probably been in the ring with him probably at least 10 times, and I don't know if he's still wrestling or not. Once I stopped wrestling last November, I've kind of completely lost touch with not so much everybody. I mean, I have a couple close friends I keep in contact with, but the whole scene, I don't watch it, I don't read up on it, and I don't know anything that's going on. So I don't know who's in, who's out, who's alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Certainly. No, he's very
kind of an afterthought.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you mean. Yeah, because let me go back to the wrestling for a second. So, of course, fulfilling your dream and starting in wrestling. Can you talk about the training, how it was with Killer Kowalski? Because we know that, like you said earlier, he's one of the most intense, well-respected, best schools that there is, out there. And so when you went there for your training, how was that? Was it pretty brutal as expected?
Well, I remember walking in the first day. He had responded with a letter. I had contacted him via mail, because at the time email was almost, I wouldn't say obsolete, but my junior year in college, email wasn't the preferred method that it is nowadays, and there's no professional websites back then that there are now. So
yeah, you're right.
I found a mailing address online, and I sent them a letter just expressing my interest. And I had sent some letters to some other wrestling schools in other states with the intention of maybe relocating if I had to. But Kowalski was one of the only ones that got back to me, and it was, I think it was one of those automated letters that they send out saying, I'd be happy to train you, this is the fee, this is how much it is, this is our address. So I don't remember how long it was afterwards, but I went over, I walked up the staircase. It was a very old building in Malton, Massachusetts, which is right outside of Boston, kind of like a real blue-collar little city. And I remember walking up these stairs to this old building, and he was sitting right there in a chair right when I walked up, and he was this massive man. Even though he was, he was older at the time, he was still enormous. And he shook my hand. Anybody who ever has shaken Killer Kowalski's hand will tell you it has like a vice grip. Even at 80 years old, it was like, your hand was, you were going to be tortured for information. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, and at the time, he basically told me in the back room, and Mike Hollow, who was the head trainer at Kowalski at the time, he was in charge of doing most of the drills, and he pretty much led classes. But on the weekends, Walt would get in the ring and show you some stuff. And anytime you wanted to know anything, Kowalski was there to show you. He would answer any questions, and, he was very old school, so he'd stop practice matches in the middle of the match and scream and say, do this instead. And, sometimes people got frustrated, especially Mike, but at the same time, he was doing it for our own benefit, obviously. But Mike Hollow was the one leading the drills, and he was, I had never been in the shape I was in before training with him. We were doing military-type drills, and his whole approach was do things safely, but also realize you're going to blow up in matches, and you're going to get tired, and that's when your form and your technique is the most important, is when you're tired, because that's when injuries happen. If you're going to pick a guy up and you're tired and you can't handle it, you could kill somebody. Yeah. So the drills were very hard, but very, very rewarding. And 4 or 5 months in, I started doing battle royals and started doing singles matches about a year in. And definitely, I would recommend him as a trainer to anybody, because the guys he trained and the guys that got polished under him are endless.
That's great. Yeah, that's terrific. And I know you had already said that, you know, you're not keeping up too much in the current wrestling scene, but do you keep up with any of those guys that you were training with at that time? Anybody from that school?
Yeah, you know, a lot of it is is texts on the holidays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Text the guys, and you know, there are a few guys that I worked with back then and throughout the years, not just Kowalski years, but you know, guys that I wrestled in Lucha Libre USA or Ring of Honor and other places that I still keep in contact with, but it might be like 1 or 2, 3 phone calls a year, and that's about it.
Okay. Okay. And so when you were done with your training, and here we are, let's say a couple of years in with your experience, can you walk us through from after the training was done, where did you go from there? Because I know that you've been with a ton of promotions, but kind of give us a timeline here of where we're at, you know, say a couple of years after you completed your training.
Right. Well, the beautiful thing about Kowalski School was that, you know, once you paid your fee, you were a student for life. So you could go anytime. You could go anytime and train. I know some wrestling schools 6 months or a year and a half, and then you're done.
Right.
It wasn't the case here. You could always go back and train. You just paid monthly dues, whatever it was.
Gotcha.
$25, $30, $40 at the time.
Okay.
So, so I would continue to train, but my first couple of years were just basically doing the New England wrestling scene. You know, Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Vermont, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and then I would say like maybe 3 years later, I started branching out. Like, you know, WWE started using me for Monday night, Sunday night heat, and Saturday night velocity matches and dark matches. So I started getting a reputation of being, a pretty decent guy because I was getting used by WWE. And then I started branching out. I actually moved to New Jersey for a summer and did the scene out there. I wrestled in Jersey, Delaware for ECWA, and a lot of other companies. And then Ring of Honor gave me a shot, and that's probably where I got the most notoriety, was working for them at the time. So, it was kind of a gradual progression to indies and then into more mainstream stuff after that.
Okay. Now, I wanted to ask you this, RJ, too, because I forgot to mention this. In my research, you had suffered a neck injury that took you out of football. Is that correct? My junior year in college, I had throat surgery. I had a cyst removed from my throat. It wasn't anything serious or cancerous thing, thank God, but it was something that I had removed like right before, like a week before college started. In fact, I think I missed like the first week of college classes. Oh, wow.
And I just kind of, and I was going to go back to football, but I just kind of lost the passion for it. I just, my first 2 years of playing college football were it was fun, but I didn't play much. I played a little bit my sophomore year, but I just I think the wrestling bug just kind of took over. And now that I had bulked up for college football, I said, I don't want to play college football anymore. I want to go wrestle. So I think that was pretty much where my head was at. So I kind of said, well, I'm done. Once I'm healed, I'm going to go check out the wrestling school. And that's what I did. It was January of my junior year in college, which was maybe a couple months after classes started that I started my training.
Okay, and then going back to the wrestling for a minute here, what was your experience like with, let's say, 4 or 5 years, into it, and you feel like you're a veteran, and when you were with WWE at the time too? So I guess it's kind of a twofold question. How was your experience there, working there?
The WWE experiences were great. I mean, anytime you went there, even if you didn't wrestle, you always go there and you're waiting to see the sheet, to see if you're on for the night. And I'd say probably 60-70% of the times I was there, I was used. I got to wrestle a lot of big name guys, whether it be on TV or a dark match. I was even on SmackDown and Raw a couple times. So it was always a learning experience. But even when you weren't, you had the opportunity back then to get in the ring with guys like Fit Finley and Arn Anderson and Regal, and they would have the indie guys and the extra guys there working and training in the ring, and they'd be watching you and critiquing you and giving you advice. So that was awesome. Then you just see how the company was run from top to bottom, like the production, the backstage stuff, the interviews, the promos. It's quite fascinating how they take this arena and they get there 5 hours, 6 hours before a show, and then they transform it into this huge production that millions of people are watching. It's pretty fascinating. So definitely no regrets. At one point, I think I was very, very close to getting a contract. I was even told I was going to get offered one, but it never came. But everything happens for a reason, and I'm not going to look back and ever say this should have happened. I think where I'm at right now is where I'm supposed to be. So I take it all as a blessing. But it was fun. It definitely I have no bad feelings or bitterness toward wrestling at all. It was a great 15 years.
Yeah, and also when I was checking out your Facebook page about a couple days ago, I remember you had mentioned about being able to travel the world and doing stuff that, a lot of people certainly wouldn't have been able to experience. Can you talk about some of the cool, fun places that wrestling let you travel to?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I went to England for 3 tours. I went to Japan once, went to Germany twice. Actually, Germany maybe 3 times. And then all over the United States. I mean, I did probably 20, 25 states that I wrestled in. So, yeah, a lot of times you're just going from the hotel to the arena and then back to the hotel, then back to the airport. But at the same time, when you get to go to a different country, you're going to Japan or you're going to Germany or England, and you're making, in the end of the day, you're walking out with money to be in a different country. That's a pretty cool feeling. So, especially somebody like me that likes to travel and see things, I was basically being paid to travel. Was the money amazing? Well, no, but I also have been one that's been really good at budgeting my money and saving it. So I never had that issue of, I just wasted it all drinking that night and everything I made for the show. So, I would say that every country, every state has pluses and minuses, and I would just try to focus on the pluses and just really enjoy the fact that I'm here, and I'm doing something a lot of people would die to do.
Oh, yeah, certainly. And I remember also you had mentioned on one of your Facebook posts about, kind of in wrestling, obviously anybody who's a real wrestling fan sees the dark side of things that can happen. And I'll give you an example. Here in Atlanta, I live literally down the street from where DDP does his, you've heard of Diamond Dallas Page's Accountability Crib, where he's had guys like Scott Hall, Jake Roberts. And we've seen, like the movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke and, all that kind of stuff. So, and now, currently, of course, Hulk Hogan versus Gawker and everything going on there. But, let me ask you, because you had said about being able to, I like what you just said, too, a few sentences ago, budgeting. Personally, I wish there was a way that there could be almost like a budgeting class or finance economic class for professional wrestlers, because you see it a lot in this industry, and a lot of it, of course, with premature deaths from drug overdoses and painkillers, and just so I guess what I'm asking you, with your lifestyle, being on the road and living this really hard life, was it really hard and tempting for you ever? Did you have colleagues and other guys saying, "Come on, RJ, let's go to the bar. Let's do this, drugs and alcohol"? Or how was it for you personally, in that experience, living that?
Well, sure, there's always pressures, but you can go to a bar and have one drink. If you go to a bar and you have to have 20 of them, well, that's a lack of self-control on your part. Yeah. To blame the wrestling industry, or blame your friends, or blame your peer pressure is absurd. Because if you surround yourself with those people, well, you got to make a decision. Do you stay true to yourself and go to bed a little early, or do you stay up all night party and then be forced to take drugs to stay awake? So I don't like blaming the wrestling industry. Sure, there are definitely pressures in that lifestyle, especially the guys. The longest I was ever on the road for, like when I was in England, I wrestled almost every day for 4 or 5 weeks, and then I've done some promotional tours for Lucha Libre USA, where I would wrestle in the city, fly the next day to do promotion, interviews on the radio, TV, then fly back. And there was 2 weeks where I was in 8 different cities in 2 weeks, but never under any circumstance would I say I need drugs now to stay awake, or I need painkillers. It wouldn't happen. So I think a lot of it is on the individual, not so much you can't blame an occupation for it. I think even Gary Cappetta said in the interview, he said a lot of these people would probably do it no matter what job they're doing, and I agree with that.
Yeah, certainly.
Does wrestling have a little to do with it? Sure. I mean, if you're traveling all the time, you're taking these bumps, you're on an airplane, you're sore, you're stressed out, your ankle, you're limping on your ankle, then all of a sudden there's a delay in your flight, and now you have to get rerouted, and you're going to pick up your bags. A rental car, it's all stressful, for sure, but that's when the mentally tough, succeed. And if you're going to get addicted to drugs, like so many have, and die early, and have health problems, well, there's only so much you can blame the wrestling industry. I don't buy into that.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Let me ask you about your time in Lucha Libre USA. Can you tell us, a little bit about that and the character that you portrayed when you were there? Seemed like you had a lot of fun with that one.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. It was a blast. I got contacted by Lucha Libre USA, I think it was in 2009.
Okay.
And I pretty much, that was it was my first summer back in Massachusetts. I was spending winters in Florida. I was kind of like an old retired lady. I'd go to Florida for 6 months, go back up to Massachusetts. It was great. And my first winter in Florida, I went down there. I bartended. I was hanging out at the beach, and I said, I don't want to wrestle anymore. I'd gone back to Massachusetts for the summer because Florida life in the summer is a little slower. The money wasn't that great, and I still owned a house in Mass, and my family was there, so I figured I'd do the seasonal thing for a few years. And I remember getting an email from Lucha Libre USA saying they were going to start this new show, and they had a contract with MTV2. And I had received so many inquiries like that before, like, oh, we're starting a TV show. You never know which ones are legit, which ones are BS, because you just kind of take it with a grain of salt. So I responded and said, oh, yeah, I'm interested in hearing more. So Mark Jindrak, who, I don't know if you remember Mark Jindrak,
sure.
WWE,
yeah.
WCW, he called me, and basically he was in charge of booking talent, and I was referred to them by a bunch of people, and they said we have a specific character in mind to play this anti-immigration guy who basically wanted to collect masks, deport everybody that doesn't belong there, and kind of the anti-luchador. And I loved the idea. So they flew me out to California. As a matter of fact, the first show we filmed for MTV2 is 10 minutes from where I live now, at a casino right here in right outside of Palm Springs. So it's pretty ironic that I ended up moving there, 5 years later. But yeah, and it was great. At first I wasn't quite sure where the character was going to go, but I had to put my own political twist on it. I got kind of extreme with it, and then the news outlets started to pick me up, and then the news, the media, once one outlet picks you up, the others follow. So I was on Fox News, on CNN, I was on the front page of the LA Times, different magazines, radio stations, and then ABC Nightline was the big piece where millions of people watched, and that was like the icing on the cake, where they said, oh my God, this guy is going to get murdered. But all in all, I survived, and it was fun, and I had a blast, and definitely helped me. In fact, if it wasn't for that character, I probably wouldn't be living out here, because I had met somebody who was filling in for Geraldo Rivera's radio show. He interviewed me. He was a wrestling fan who we kept in contact, and he lived out here in Palm Springs. And I kind of said, well, I'm going to give the West Coast a try, and he gave me a place to live for a few months before I bought my place. So everything happens for a reason, like I said before. Yeah,
that's really cool. Wow, and you must have had nuclear heat at that time, and that must have been a blast. And especially with everything going on today, I could see you could go all day long with the Trump 2016 kind of agenda. That would be pretty cool.
Now would be the time if we were on TV, or if we were touring, where it would be a lot stronger. But I was. It was alluded to that I was the son of the governor of Arizona, Jan Brewer, who was very hated in the Latino community also. So when I came out with the Arizona flag, and my last name was Brewer, and I was doing these, they knew what I stood for. But right now, with the with Trump's Trump's immigration views and stuff, I definitely think it could go further, and I think it could have gone further. It's just things just didn't pan out in the end. But
okay.
I tell my friends all the time that I was Donald Trump before he was. I was saying this stuff before he was, and but it overall was, like I said, very good experience, and I had a blast.
And what was your, if you look at your whole spectrum of your wrestling career from when you started to, let's say last year, what would be the favorite? Is there a specific time on that timeline that just stands out as your absolute favorite time that you'd love to relive again?
Well, I would definitely say it was playing the RJ Brewer character, no doubt about it. I mean, we were wrestling in legit arenas. We would wrestle an average in front of an average of about 3,000, 3 to 4 or 5,000 people a night.
Oh, wow!
I was the main guy, feuding with one of the biggest luchadors, Blue Demon, in history of Mexican wrestling. So I would say, it has to have been that. When you're the main event of a show where thousands of people have come, it's a pretty cool feeling. And that just being able to kind of go out there and talk. I had always been known as a wrestler before, and now I was getting all this heat and getting all this notoriety by just doing promos and interviews. And then it made the matches so much easier. So that was really kind of a change from what I was used to in the past.
That is really cool. And I've got to insert this little fun fact here because I've got to say this is pretty. I'm going to ask you. I myself back about 10 years ago. We're going back around 06, 07. I wrestled in Framingham, Massachusetts, at the National Guard Armory, and on the card, I was in a tag match with Spike Dudley against I think Josh Daniels, and I don't remember the other guy. Maybe Judas Priest might have been his name. I don't know if any of those names. Of course, Spike Dudley. I'm sure,
yeah,
but
I know Josh Daniels well. I had wrestled him a few times.
Yeah, now, I don't think that you were there at that time because I can't remember the guy's name, the promoter. Maybe you could help me out, or the name of the promotion even. I was there very briefly. I think I wrestled a couple of matches. One was against Don Vega, the Punisher, and I don't recall the promoter's name. I wish I could remember it, but it's just not clicking.
What year was it?
It would have been 2007, I'm sure. I think maybe late 07 is what I'm...
Well, the only promotion I knew that ran at the Armory in Framingham was that Mike Sparta character.
Oh, thank you. That's him. He was the promoter. Yeah, thank you. I could not think of his name, but yeah.
Yeah, I had wrestled for him early in my career. In fact, my first 5 or 6 matches were with him.
Okay.
Which was in 2001, 2002, in that time period. And then I stopped working there because I was kind of traveling a little bit. And
sure.
I don't know if I ever had a falling out with him or if I just stopped working for him. He stopped booking. I'm not sure what the deal was, but I wasn't sure. I knew I had heard of him sporadically running shows throughout the next 4 or 5 years, but I just never knew much about it. But I remember, my dad telling me, there's a wrestling show in Framingham every so often because that's where my parents still live. So, yeah,
okay.
That does make sense.
Yeah, because I have these memories. This is going at I guess 9 or 10 years ago, and I think Dangerous Danny Davis was another of his mains at that time. Of course. So this is after.
Oh yeah, he's he lives up that way. He referees one of my matches when I was wrestling for Big Time Wrestling. Yeah, he's a character for sure.
Ah, okay. Yeah, because at that time, I had briefly lived around, I'm sure you know, Brockton, Stoughton area. That's where I was working and living at that time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and those are the areas he usually ran. He ran in that circle of Massachusetts. So yeah, that makes sense. I would bet my money that that's who it was for.
Oh yeah, that was his name. And right when you said his name, it clicked back. I probably haven't heard that name in probably that long time. But that's really cool. But that's what brings me now to this transition here, because this is really cool. Being able to interview you is just fascinating for me personally, because I feel like we have so much in common. Live similar lifestyles here. From my research on you, we're the same age, and we had a very similar upbringing with doing wrestling and then transitioning into fitness. Out here in Atlanta, I do personal training, and now let me make this assumption: how did the fitness part of it? When did that come into play? And what you're doing now? Can you walk us through that part?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier in the interview, when I graduated high school, I probably weighed about 140 pounds. And
yes.
I had bulked up about 15, 20 pounds on my own.
Okay.
But then I realized, to get into wrestling, I needed to put on some more size, and I never wanted to take steroids. I mean, to me, that was not an option ever in my life, and not just for the health reasons. I just morally, to me, it felt wrong. And my parents and family were so supportive of my wrestling career. I'm sure they weren't completely happy with me choosing it, but they were also very supportive. I felt like if I was going to go there and take illegal steroids and drugs, I would have been letting them down. And my mom had paid for my wrestling school and that stuff. I just I don't think I could look myself in the mirror. To me, steroid use is a personal choice. Whatever people decide to do, that's their life, their choice. It's cool. I have a lot of friends clearly who do it, and being in the wrestling industry, you can count on 2 hands how many people I've met who don't or who haven't. But it was not something I wanted to do. So I decided not to, and I wanted to put on muscle naturally. So I did a Google search one day for gaining muscle without steroids and without supplements, because to me supplements were completely letting me down. I mean, they were overpriced, and just for health reasons too. Most of this stuff has lists and lists of ingredients that you don't even know what they are. So I didn't want to put these foreign things into my body. I wanted to put on muscle naturally. So I came across a workout program that promised muscle mass gain, and it was called Muscle Now. It was musclenow.com. And I said, well, I'm going to give it a shot. I went on his website. He had testimonials. He had a 90-day money-back guarantee, and then he offered personal training for life. Basically, through email, if you had any questions about the program, you email him, and he emailed you back. So I said, well, what's there to lose? At the time, I think it was a $100 program. The program's a little more now, but it was, to me, it was definitely worth the try. Money back guarantee. What's the worst that could happen? So I got the program, and of course I had some questions naturally at first, and I emailed him, and this guy would answer with, lists and lists of, his email responses were not two lines. It was like 2 pages, and he would go in detail on what you're supposed to do, what kind of food you should eat, how often you should work. But I mean, the book had everything from lifting charts, diet charts, theory, you name it, it was in there. So the results were unbelievable. I was putting on mass, and from the day I started wrestling to the day I maxed out at my top weight, I had gained like 70 pounds of muscle, and I kept my 6-pack. So it's like, well, how did that happen? And I didn't take a steroid. So everyone, people were accusing me of doing drugs, and I said, no, I'm not. And, a few of my friends have since used the program and have thanked me for it. But that's definitely what I credit my physique to. And I moved out here with the intentions of kind of just starting a new career and start personal training. And that is the program I teach to most of my clients, and they're all having great success with it. And the author and myself have actually just filmed a workout video to go along with this program, because I had asked them one time, I said, you've got this book out there, but a lot of people are more visual. They might want to see a video. Let's do a video. So he had come out here last June, and him and I filmed the video over 3 or 4 days. So it'll be out soon, probably in the next month or two, and it's basically going to be a companion to the book, where we visually show some sample workouts of the program. So.
That's awesome, yeah, because when I was interviewing, again, Gary Michael Cappetta was saying that you had helped him as well in his own personal kind of, fitness and health and wellness routine.
Yeah, Gary was he was great. I mean, back in the day when, he was doing his book tour, and we met when he spoke at the Chaotic Wrestling School, which Kowalski School ended up becoming the Chaotic Wrestling School. They bought the name change, but it was the same trainer, same guys. And Gary was touring after he wrote his book, doing speeches and stuff. And he came to the Chaotic School. That's where I met him, bought his book, and then 2 days later, he was at one of the shows that I had wrestled at, and he watched my match, and he pulled me aside and told me he was very impressed. And he ended up emailing me. He ended up emailing me with a bunch of critique and advice and stuff on my matches, things I should work on, and we became friends. He's the reason I got into Ring of Honor. He had submitted a video for me, and Gary was one of the guys who would always tell it like it is. If it was the truth, it was going to come out of his mouth. Sometimes it wasn't what you wanted to hear, but it was all for the benefit of you. And he's become a good friend since. He's had me over for Christmas Eve, and the one summer I went down and lived in Jersey, I wasn't far from him, so we went to the gym together, and we worked out together, hung out together, and looking forward to seeing him this summer when I go back to the East Coast for a little while.
That'll be cool. Very, very nice. Excellent. And so let's talk about the MuscleNow.com program. So can you walk us through that, and also if anybody out there in the greater Palm Springs, California is listening, what does your personal training entail when they sign up with you?
Well, basically, everything is going to depend on what somebody's goals are. I have one client who came to me and said, I want to lose 50 pounds. I had another client who said, I just want to gain muscle. I've had another client who said, I want to lose a little fat and tone up. So I always gear it towards what somebody's goals are. I'm not going to have somebody who wants to lose 50 pounds do the same workout as somebody that's trying to gain 40 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's always going to be different. But overall, the methods are the same. I mean, every set I do is going to be the failure. When I say failure, and that's one thing that the Muscle Now program preaches, is that you take every set to failure. So if you're doing lat pull downs, for an example, you just got your last complete set. Well, you're not done. You're going to go until you can't move the bar from the starting position. So you're going to do partial reps until basically your muscles are completely exhausted. Because a lot of times when people work out, they're leaving energy on the table still. You know what I mean? So when you completely exhaust your muscle, then you're completely exhausted. You've gone to failure, and that's what the program basically does. And it's in depth. I mean, it's like a 300-page book. It's got what days you should work out, when you should do your cardio, how you should eat for muscle gain, how you should eat for fat loss. It's all in there. And the website's MuscleNow.com. If anybody is listening that wants a legit workout program, and if you look at the price, I'm not sure how much the price now might be, $200 plus, but some people say, oh, it's kind of steep. I said, well, so are supplements that aren't doing anything for you. This book is going to be this book has been my Bible for life. It was a one-time purchase. You can email him with questions, and even email me. I mean, I'm always here to help people as well. And the website's MuscleNow.com, and there is a coupon code that, is attached to my name. It's Muscle Without Supplements is the coupon code. So if people end up ordering, they'll get a pretty significant discount with that. And eventually I'll have my own website. I'm building a personal training website as we speak, and I'll have, links to the video, links to the book, and then also links to my personal training sessions. And I've had some people come in for a week at a time, weekend. They're in Palm Springs, and they email me and they say, hey, I want to just train for a week. And I've had plenty of clients like that because this is a tourist area as well. So it's not unheard of to have people pop in and out and just want to train.
Yeah, certainly. Can you tell us, RJ, how many people do you see roughly a week that you do training for right now, like roughly?
Well, when I was in the peak of the season, I was up to about 9 clients. But I also started bartending again at night. So I was working basically, so I was, I was before traveling with Lucha Libre USA, I was bartending on the side. Even when I was doing indie wrestling, I was always kind of bartending, working in restaurants. So this is like I said, this is a big tourist area. There's a lot of money out here. So I started doing that as well. So I pretty much work 5-6 nights, and then I train 5-6 days. So the past 5 months have been balls to the wall, but it's been very, very good financially and rewarding to see people's bodies change. And of course, going to a restaurant and pouring drinks and making money is always nice. So, yeah. So I was up to about 9. It's probably cut in half right now because a lot of my clients went back up north for the summer. They've left recently, but they'll be back in the fall. So it's a very 4 or 5 month window here to really make money. And but I'm looking forward to kind of a light summer where I can kind of unwind, reset, and travel a little bit, and then start fresh in the fall again.
That's excellent. And I know one of your other things that you're passionate about, you're a self-professed dog lover, correct?
Oh, yeah. I'm actually walking my dog right now. I've been walking the whole interview. And, but, I know it's probably not 90 degrees there, but it's 90 degrees here. So he's laying under a tree right now, and he's rolling in the mud.
What kind of dog is he, RJ?
I've got a pit bull mix, and he's 9 years old. He's going to be 9 in September, give or take. And I adopted him when he was a year old. So,
oh, man, that's like your little...
8 years, and the time flies, and he's very gentle, docile dog, loves everybody, and I'm always posting pictures and videos of him on Facebook. I think I do that more than I post anything else. So.
And what's his name?
His name's Mica.
Mica, that's cool. And so you've had him since 1, so yeah, that's like your baby, like your son, basically.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm really all he knows. And but he's great. People hear about, these bully breeds like pit bulls and, American bulldogs and Rottweilers and Dobermans. They freak out thinking they're all going to be mean and vicious, but dogs need balance, and they need rules and boundaries like people do. And once you give it to them, and you're a stable, level-headed person, they're going to follow you and do what you say. And this dog doesn't have any aggression in him, so very socialized, very happy animal. This one.
That is so cool. And you always been a big dog lover, or animals, pretty much growing up?
Yeah, I didn't grow up with pets.
Oh, okay.
My mom was kind of scared of dogs. I mean, my dad grew up in a village in Greece where there were basically wolves in his backyard. So I don't think my dad had a fear of dogs. But my mom always kind of had a fear of dogs, I think. But my first dog, who had passed right before I got Mica, kind of warmed up to him. And then Mica's her baby. I mean, when I stay with them in the summers, they're on the couch together cuddling. So to see this lady scared of animals at one point, calling me to see how the dog is sometimes instead of seeing how I am, it's pretty funny.
That is really cool. And what else do you do on your, fun time, when you're not working, when you're not wrestling, when you're not training clients? What else do you like and enjoy doing out there over in Palm Springs?
Well, since November, I've pretty much had 3 jobs and I've been working. So I think in the past 5 months, I might have had 4 days off from everything. So there hasn't been much time, even to get my own workouts in. It's been kind of difficult, but I love to travel, and I like to go to the beach. Unfortunately, Palm Springs is looking at about a 2-hour drive to the beach, and that's what I miss about living in Florida. But there's so much to see in this state, and I don't know how long I'm staying for. I could be here another year. I could be here forever. I just don't really know because all my, my family and my roots are on the East Coast. But there's a lot to see here, a lot of traveling. And in fact, next week I'm going to be driving up the California coast for the first time. It's a drive I've wanted to do since I can't remember how long it's been. So I'm taking 2 days, and a friend of mine are going to drive up the coast and spend the night and drive back down and basically see those views that you see in the movies and on the internet, the coastal drive. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that's going to be a blast. Wow, that'll be a lot of fun. How has your family been able to come out to the West Coast and visit you at all?
Well, my brother came out one time because, when I had moved out last December for the first time, I drove by myself. I left my dog with my parents because basically I wanted to come out here, get a job, get settled, find work, and make sure I was going to be okay, and then get my own place to live. Once I did buy my own place, I flew back one way, and my brother and I drove back with my dog because I didn't want to put my dog on the plane. So I did the cross-country 48-hour drive twice in 3 months. So my brother came out. Other than that, I've had some friends from Massachusetts and Pennsylvania come out to visit, but no family. It's a little far, and my parents aren't crazy about traveling, but I think eventually I'll get them out here.
Good. Now that's terrific. And let's do some station plugs here and plug some stuff. So, RJ, if anybody's listening out there and they want to get a hold of you for anything, like whether it's personal training or asking you any other questions, what are the best ways for them to get in touch with you?
Well, I got a little tractor driving by, so it might be hard to hear me, but my Facebook page is probably the best method of contact for me because basically, obviously, I have a lot of links to personal training and pictures on there. So it's facebook.com/RJ Brewer 1070, which is 1070, or you can go into the search and search RJ Brewer Palm Desert, California, and I'll be there. I pretty much accept everybody because I always look at everybody who's friend requests me, except for a lot of times you get those really sexy girls with 2 friends. They're not legit people, but the majority of people still know me from wrestling, or might have. You never know how many friend requests you might get from an interview like this, or you do it. I've done other radio interviews here in California, and I've had people message me with questions, and so that's the best way. And if people who are listening don't have Facebook, my email is rjbrewer10701070@yahoo.com. And if people are skeptical about ordering the program or training, then I will always answer any questions and give them my 2 cents before they do so. But I'm always down to train here in Palm Springs, and if anybody's local and wants to train, I'm definitely down for that. And if not, and they want to get a good workout program and change their bodies, and the musclenow.com is definitely the way to go. And remember that there is a coupon code to get a discount too. Can
you give us the coupon code one more time? We'll put it up on the screen here.
Yep. It's muscle without supplements.
Gotcha.
All one word or 2 or 3 words. It doesn't really make a difference. But yeah, muscle without supplements.
Perfect. Okay, excellent.
And my dog sees a little dog and he's whining because he wants to play. Come on.
Well, he's been a true sport.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say he's been a true sport to be with us on this interview today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's excited about it too.
And what does the rest of your day and week look like? What does it entail here?
Well, I'm taking a friend to the airport, and then I have to bartend tonight, and then get 2 clients tomorrow morning, and the weekend is pretty much the same. And then on Tuesday, I'll be traveling out to the coast of California and enjoying my trip. So I work hard and then try to play hard, try to have a nice balance in life.
Hey, that's the way to do it. Let me ask you this, RJ. Are we going to see you in the ring anytime in the future? I know that you've distanced yourself from it, but how would you answer that if people ask if you're going to do another match?
Well, they say never say never, and I agree with that, but it would be extremely, extremely rare and very unlikely that I'll ever wrestle again. And it's not something, the fact that it's been over almost a year and a half since I've been in the ring, and I don't miss it one bit. I think that tells me that I made the right decision.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And again, when I'm just wrestling to try to satisfy myself, to satisfy my need to go out there and perform, instead of when the risks outweigh the rewards, I don't think it's something I want to do. And to me, it's just, I gave my all for 15 years. There was a light at the end of the tunnel. I said, well, maybe I'll do this for a living. Now I don't even want to do it for a living anymore. So what's the point of going in there and having a match for fun where I could break an ankle and then potentially rob myself of making money in other avenues? To me, it just doesn't make any sense. And you got to control your emotions sometimes. And I've always been a very logical person. I don't really let my emotions dictate things. I kind of let my brain dictate things. So I really don't think it's likely.
Okay. Yeah, very well said, RJ. And I've truly enjoyed this interview, and I hope we can have you back on again. You'll take our invitation again, because I feel like we can cover so much more, and I really do believe that I feel like I've interviewed almost like a parallel of myself. It's uncanny. This is great. This is really, really good, and really enjoyed having you on here, and can't thank you enough for your time. And, thank you so much for taking the time out to talking to us here.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Anytime.
All right, RJ. Well, thank you again. And folks listening, as we fade to black, grab a pen and paper. We're going to have his contact information on the screen here one more time. Here it comes. Okay, everybody, there you have it. RJ Brewer from Palm Springs, California, right here for the very first time on GoTarryn TV. And there you saw the contact information. Make sure that you shoot him an email or friend him on Facebook today. And check out musclenow.com. You got the promo code from him. The coupon code was Muscle Without Supplements. And again, that's with RJ Brewer. So check him out today, folks. And again, it was just a truly fascinating audio podcast interview. I really enjoyed it. And RJ, if by chance you're watching, thank you so much for your time. And we'd love to have you back on very soon. And that way we can check out the website once it's launched, and also check out some other things that you're doing out there in Palm Springs, California. But folks, again, it's very, very fascinating. Go on YouTube. A lot of his matches are on there. Check out Lucha Libre USA. Look at some of the pieces that he was featured on some of those national media outlets. Really, really interesting. And RJ, I got to say, with this current presidential election, if Trump gets the nominee, I think I speak for everyone out there, you need to be his running mate, because if you're his running mate, I think we're going to definitely have a solid, good team running the USA. So we'll see what happens. But there you have it, folks. Again, wonderful audio podcast interview. I can't say enough. RJ Brewer, and please make sure you check him out today, folks. And RJ, keep up the great work out there over in California. And as far as all the stuff out here in Atlanta, Georgia, folks, please make sure to also check out the website link right down there at the bottom of your screen, www.gotarryn.tv, and bookmark that website as a favorite to your web browser today. And also, if you could do me the following 3 favors, I'd greatly appreciate it. Please make sure to like GoTarryn on Facebook, subscribe to GoTarryn on YouTube, and follow GoTarryn on Twitter. And that way we'll stay connected. Tarryn the Traveling Trainer of GoTarryn Personal Training, who tells each and every one of you that it's your time, it's your investment, it's your life. Thanks so much, folks. We'll see you on the next video blog, everybody. Bye-bye.